Hi everyone, we're back, and what we're going to talk about in this segment is the college application process. We're going to go to the part 2, GPA and class rank, a little bit of understanding of the role that those two numbers play in your college admissions process. I get a lot of questions all the time about how taking a certain class affects your class rank and your class standing and your GPA. And I think there's a lot of stress and sleepless nights that people have over what they should consider important in terms of GPA and class rank. So hopefully I can explain to you a little bit about how it's used and also dispel a few myths about how a lot of people think it's used and the overemphasis that a lot of people put on these numbers. So they are important, but you have to take them into context for what you're looking for and gain a little perspective in them. So with that said, let's take a look at what it is. So first of all, what is grade point average? A grade point average is a single number that is used to determine the quality of performance for a student across all of the classes that they've taken at Bangor High School. And so there are two versions of the GPA, or grade point average. I call it GPA, and I'll call it that from now on. There's unweighted and weighted. And simply put, an unweighted GPA means that we translate your grades into a 4-point scale. An A receives a 4, and that includes at Bangor High School A minuses. So if a student gets an A minus or an A, it's the same grade in the GPA calculation. A B is a 3, and likewise a B minus and a B plus are also calculated as a 3. A C is a 2, a D is a 1, and students receive no GPA points for failing a class. The difference between that unweighted GPA and the weighted GPA is that when a student is weighted, and at Bangor High School that includes all courses that are AP, that is advanced placement courses, or honors courses. So if you see a designation on a class that says honors, it gets a GPA weight. If it says AP, it gets a GPA weight. There are a handful of classes that we have that are not named honors or AP. For example, advanced problem solving has a GPA weight. There are some classes that you would think would have a GPA weight but don't. For example, dual enrollment classes do not have a GPA weight. But on a weighted GPA, an A is worth 5 points, a B is worth 4 points. And that's the only difference, because C's, D's, and F's do not receive a bump in weighting. So a C in an honors course is a 2.0, a C in a level 1 or a level 2 course is also a 2.0. The bump is for any performance that exceeds average. So B is considered above average, and it gets a GPA bump, and an A gets a GPA bump as well. So when you look at a transcript, and I'm going to show you an example here in just a few seconds, you will see two GPAs. You will see an unweighted, and the maximum number that you can get in an unweighted GPA is a 4.0. That would be an A in every class that you take at Bangor High School. A weighted GPA, you can, in fact, get above a 4.0. I'm going to talk about that here right now. So a GPA is an average calculated from every course on your transcript. So when you think about you took an earth science class and you got an A, and you took a geocivics class and you got a B, and once you average all of those out, you take all of them and you divide by the number of courses that you've taken, and you can very easily calculate your own GPA by doing that. The weighted GPA is calculated exactly the same way. It's an average. When you look at an AP class and you get an A, you just count it as a 5 instead of a 4. It is reported as a 4.0 scale. Even though students can, in fact, get above a 4.0, it is still called a 4.0 scale. So if a student has a 4.3 GPA, and you say, well, wait a minute, but I thought it was a 4.0 scale, you can go above the maximum. I know that's a little bit of an oxymoron there, but in fact, it is the fact. It is not a 5.0 scale because classes that are not weighted can't get a 5. So it is reported as a 4.0 scale. So like I said, there are some students that could have a 4.7 GPA on a 4.0 scale. But that indicates that they have taken honors and AP courses, many of them, and also done very well in them. And this is what I'm talking about here. Some students can earn a GPA over a 4, but that means they took honors and AP courses and got A's in those courses. That's the only way to get above a 4.0. The weighted GPA is what Bangor High School uses to calculate your class rank. So again, I'm going to show you a transcript here in just a second, but when you look at your class rank and wonder how is that determined, it is simply taking all of the students' weighted grade point averages and lining them up from top to bottom, and the highest GPA, weighted GPA in the class is going to be number 1 in the class, and so forth. So that's how the weighted GPA works in conjunction with your class rank. So explaining a little bit about class rank and why that is another number that we use. As I said, it is based on your weighted GPA. It ranks all of the students in your grade or cohort. So all of the students that started high school in the same year stay in the same cohort for 4 years. And it is a way to kind of line you up with your grade. That's an important statistic because all of the students in your grade have had relatively the same experience, right? For students that are from Bangor, you've been in the same school since pre-K, the same school system. For students that aren't from Bangor or that may have moved to Bangor later on, there are some variances in your experiences, but generally speaking, a group of people in one cohort have had a similar experience, and this is a way to kind of compare you to the group. The top 4 students in the class rank receive an award called the French Medal. It has nothing to do with speaking French. It is named after a person. And the French medalists, as I said, the top 4 students in the class, and they are what other schools might call the honor parts. The valedictorian, the salutatorian, the first essayist, and the second essayist is what I've heard a lot of high schools use. But Bangor High School calls those positions, the top 4 in the class, the French medalists. And I got a little ahead of myself before saying that this indicates the performance of the individual compared to the performance of the whole group. So again, a little bit of help with perspective here. In a class of about 250 graduates, 25th place is the top 10% of the class. That's very good. That's one of the groups that colleges and other organizations that might be awarding financial aid or anything like that. If a student finishes in the top 10% of their cohort, they qualify for awards or placement and things like that. So that's one of those indicators that we use as a function of class rank. To say that you're 25th in the class means that you're in the top 10%, and that's outstanding. So I've had students that say, well, I'm 21st in the class. That's not that good. Actually, that's pretty good. If you can say that you're in the top 10% of a graduating class of 250 students. Likewise, you could finish 125th in the class, and that puts you right at the 50th percentile, which means you are perfectly average. That means you did just as good as most of the students in the class in terms of your grades. And another thing that can kind of help put that into perspective is that we get roughly about 170 students every year that choose to go to college. So, you know, we have students that are below the 50th percentile of the graduating class that still qualify and are accepted into universities. So no, you don't have to be in the top 10% to get into college or anything like that. So just put that as a piece of information that helps you put perspective on class rank. Now this is, move me out of the way here. This is an example of a transcript from Bangor High School. This is what an official transcript looks like. At the time of graduation, this will go to colleges. This is what is sent to colleges when they determine whether or not a student is going to be admitted into their university. So a few things to point out here. So as I look around the transcript, I can see the student's freshman year, their sophomore year, their junior year, and their senior year courses listed by name. I can see what they got for a grade and how many credits they earned for first semester courses, for second semester courses, first semester and second semester. Okay, so a person can look at this and say, I understand that this student took Spanish 2 honors as a 9th grade student. That means that that course is, it receives the honors bump. So this student got a B in the first semester, so that credit gets a 4.0. It is a B on a weighted scale. Likewise, they got an A minus in the second semester. That is going to be a 5.0 on a weighted scale. Now when you average all of these together, you get a calculated GPA. And what you end up with is these two numbers right down here. Unweighted GPA, 3.34. In letter grade terms, that would be a B+. Over here you have a 3.81 weighted GPA. And so that would be a you know, kind of a, if it was all on the same scale, that would be like going from a B+, you know, up to a solid A. So that's how those numbers work. College admissions can really look at this weighted GPA number, and they can look at that, and understanding that we use a weighted scale, that number alone can reflect that the student took challenging classes. You know, when it stands side by side with the unweighted, if the student took no honors or AP courses, the unweighted and weighted GPA would be identical. The fact that this student's weighted GPA is about a half a point higher than their unweighted GPA, that means that they took some honors and AP courses and did well in them. In other words, got A's and B's in them. And that can be confirmed by looking up here at the transcript. And you can see all of those at work. While I have this up, I can also point out that SAT scores are reported on the transcript. And right here you can see class rank. So in this grade, there were 276 graduates that year, and this student finished in 48th place. So that, if you consider 28 students would be in the top 10%, so 56 students would be in the top 20% of the class, the top 5th of the class. And so he was in the top 5th of the class, and that is an excellent job. This student did go to a selective school that required students to go above and beyond Algebra 2. For example, he took pre-calculus and AP statistics as extra math courses above and beyond Algebra 2. So college could look at this and they could see that just from this one document. So I hope this help you to understand what GPA is and what class rank is. Always remember to put it into perspective. This isn't about competition with your peers. It's about making sure that you can fit in with your peers. I have yet to see a college say, well, this student finished 5th and this student over here finished 4th, so we're going to pick the student that finished 4th. It's one piece of lots of information, because honestly, the difference between a 5th place and a 4th place student is probably less than 4/100ths of a percentage point. So it means they're virtually the same. There's a lot of other data that goes into a college application, and all of that other data is considered as well. But this document and these numbers, GPA, class rank, gives the viewer an idea of how the student is doing compared with their cohort, and it indicates rigor and it indicates academic performance. Remember, that's 2 of those big 5 items that was mentioned in the first video: academic performance and academic rigor. So GPA and class rank help the evaluator to determine those 2 things on a student's transcript. So again, I hope this helped you understand those 2 numbers and to put them into perspective with your overall approach to your college admissions. So thanks for joining us, and what we're going to see in the next video is part 3, which is academics, and we're going to focus a little bit on what you should be taking for courses during your senior year. Most of you will be watching this video as a junior or rising senior, and what you need to do to strengthen the academic profile that college admissions counselors are going to see as that last step that you're going to take in high school, which is the first step you're taking into college. So we'll talk about that in the next section. And again, thank you for joining and for looking at our description of GPA and class rank. Have a wonderful day.